Hey everybody, welcome to Campus Comics Cast, coming to you from Carbondale, Illinois, with special guests from the Campus Comics crew. And now, here's your host, the man with the previews in hand, Mike No.
Hello and welcome to an extra bonus edition of Campus Comics Cast. Sitting here again in the back room at Campus Comics with
Scott Reed,
Dan Brown,
and Tyler Wright.
All right, we already did our monthly preview review but this time we kind of just want to take a little extra time and talk about some of the movies and Netflix series that are out there, give you kind of all our input on those. And as far as that goes, where do we want to start? What do we want to start with?
Thor was first, right? So we probably should start with
go
Thor.
with that.
So,
all right.
How do we want to do this? We want to just go around and give initial impressions, or we just want to talk about it, or what?
Yeah, we can just start talking, I guess. I'm sure people will have feedback.
Yes.
So,
okay. Well, I thought it was decent, as not great, but not terrible either. So it's kind of middle of the road for me.
Right.
I really liked it. I thought it was a really good Marvel movie. I still really like the first Thor. This may have been better.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would disagree with that.
Yeah. we may have fist fights before the night's over.
Yeah.
So
but no, it was a lot of fun.
Yes.
It was a lot of fun. And Tyler's silent here because he hasn't seen it, so he's just soaking it all in.
Yes.
So
well, I got off my problem with it. I just immediately first scene. All right, Thor starts hanging in the chain, and he says Earth instead of Midgard, and that just turned me the wrong way for the movie for some reason. So like from that point forward, I was just like, it was decreasing in in its goodness as a Thor movie. Mm-hmm. So that just bothered me for some big reason.
So just saying Earth.
Yes.
Ruin the movie
well,
for you.
because it's just not the character. That's not the character. And I don't even remember going back to the other Thor movies and Avengers. I feel like he said Midgard in everything else, but in this one he says Earth instead of Midgard. Maybe I'm just misremembering that.
I think he does definitely say Midgard later in the movie, because I remember you saying that, and I kind of looked for it. But I mean, I think it's the first scene of a movie. You're going to have a more casual crowd than just the hardcore comic guys.
Who cares?
Yeah.
It stood out, but I'm not going to get hung up on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, what hits you, I guess. I mean, my whole thing with it, was it fun? Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was enjoyable. I was very entertained watching it. But at the end of the thing, it's just like, this is about the destruction of his home world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And to have it just be a rapid fire joke fest.
It
just seemed like it got the humor, and there were a lot of jokes, and it's not that they were bad jokes, and they all landed. I mean, they were all good jokes.
Most of them did.
Yeah, I can't really remember a bad one, but it's just a little bit much, and it seemed to sacrifice the heart that we're used to seeing in Marvel movies. You know what I mean? I just didn't feel the connection. I really didn't care, for the characters like I had before in Marvel movies. So it just, I don't know. It just fell a little bit short for me.
There's way too much focus on trying to make every single line a punchline to a joke. And then you have Kate Blanchett coming in playing the goddess Hela, what I can't remember. Hela. And
she's hella good too.
Yeah. And she even is talking about everything as a joke or a punchline, and that's just, I don't know. It just really bothers me that everything is being played for a joke, and you can't have a serious. That's one of the reasons why Winter Soldier is still probably the best Marvel movie, because it's actually a film and not just trying to play for a punchline.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that's probably my biggest negative about, most of the movies superhero movies that we're seeing now, they're almost all being played as for jokes.
Yeah, no, I think that's the big criticism everyone seemed to have of this film, was just the too many jokes. And for me, it is a more fun movie, but there were a couple times where I'm like, we could have done without that one,
Right.
But I think as far as downplaying the destruction of Asgard, I mean, that really feels like they're setting up a piece for Infinity War.
Yeah.
They're kind of moving everybody around.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only reason to downplay that would maybe just to set something up for later, where you're not just hitting people over the head with it, but I would assume it leads into something. It gets Thor to a certain place.
Right.
Oh, should we say spoilers?
Yeah, I was getting ready to say that. Yeah, by the way, if you've made it this far, assume that Thor is going to be spoiled, Justice League is going to be spoiled, and the Punisher Netflix series is going to be spoiled. So if you don't want to have any of those spoiled, you should have stopped 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, I can only spoil through 5 episodes of Punisher, so we're good there.
Yeah.
We probably I probably won't do a whole lot of spoilers on Punisher.
And if you haven't seen Thor at this point, I don't think you're going to, because I think it's out of theaters.
Yeah.
At this point.
Wait for the rental or streaming.
Yeah.
Another big gripe I had was the very simplistic dismissal of the Warriors 3 in this movie.
That kind of bummed me.
Yeah, that was, I mean, Fandral and Volstagg, one very brief scene where they didn't even, I don't think they swung their weapons. Mm-hmm. And then Hogan gets a little bit of a fight just to make up for his lack of involvement in some of the previous ones, and then that's it. And no Sif, which I guess I'm glad Sif wasn't there, because then she'd be dead too. Mm-hmm. But
is there a story reason why Sif wasn't around? I couldn't remember.
No, I think it was probably she's filming what's that TV series that she's in with the tattoos.
Right. Yeah.
So I would assume that just was a conflict in scheduling. So, but at least we can have her back for Infinity. Watching some of the trailers for Thor, I was really excited for some of the Valkyrie scenes. They looked really, really cool. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, those are only about 15 to 30 seconds of in the actual film. And then the Valkyrie that we get is just another Valkyrie that's played for a joke. She's drunk half the movie, and like, okay, so it's just like, here's another punchline just to add to the list of punchlines. So
yeah, that's actually one of the ones I can remember of, like, we don't need that joke, is where she's coming down the ramp of her ship and just falls off.
Right.
It's not the most graceful introduction to a character.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I get where they're going with it, but it's like, did we need that one?
Yeah.
Right.
The cameos, of course, you had Doctor Strange cameo, and then of course the Mark Ruffalo Hulk stuff. I felt were forced. I didn't really feel the interaction between Mark Ruffalo and Chris Hemsworth as Hulk Thor, Banner Thor in this movie. It felt really, it's like neither one of them was trying to me. Mm-hmm. And Doctor Strange just kind of felt wrong in this film. I guess they needed to get him in there to show that his power level has increased before we get to Infinity War. I guess if he's going to be able to play a part in that. I know I didn't care for those that interaction on either of those.
Right.
What do you guys think?
It didn't really bother me, but it was just definitely just all played for laughs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just seems to be the ongoing theme here, but it's a troublesome theme to me.
I've been following for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you think Guardians of the Galaxy had anything to do with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's why you've got Thor in space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just a lot of the design and music choices.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about the music real quick?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because Immigrant Song is a great song. It's not necessarily my favorite, but holy crap.
Oh, yeah.
It is used so effectively in this movie.
It is.
Yeah.
And for all my griping about it, that final scene, that final battle scene, with all the thunder flying, the lightning flying around him, and the Immigrant Song blaring in the background, and he's just flying through the air at the enemy. Oh, it's terrific.
It reminds me, like, it gives Thor kind of a theme song, like Wonder Woman kind of has her theme song. That's like a cool song for Wonder Woman in the where she shows up in Batman versus Superman and in, of course, her own film, and that's kind of now going to be Thor's thing.
Yeah.
But had that song been used in another superhero movie before, or is that the first time?
I would think it's probably the first time, because everyone's been making a big deal about how they were able to get that song for this movie.
Okay.
Right.
Because they are either very selective in where that goes, or it is very pricey.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine there's been a superhero film up to this point that could have even afforded it.
Okay, that's fine. I just was wondering. So
Right.
Now someone might correct us online, but they'd have to do that first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to say that's kind of one of them songs too. I mean, you get a lot of movies, especially action movies. They always seem to get your big hits to get that drive. I mean, that's like when we saw Justice League, they had the Jumanji trailer, Welcome to the Jungle. Was
Yeah.
And they always sync it up with the guns. And,
Right.
You know, so, I mean, if it works, that's totally cool, though. I mean, because...
And it's perfect for that character.
Exactly.
You know, it has a Nordic, you know, and all that stuff. You know, the immigrant son come from the land of the ice and snow. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Plus, it's
Yeah.
Zeppelin.
Oh, it's Zeppelin. Yeah, right.
But yeah, and like it's rare that you see superhero movies getting like hit songs of that caliber. Like you know, you saw Suicide Squad; they definitely threw money at that soundtrack,
Right.
Because you
Yeah.
had Credence and everything else on there.
Way forced,
you
too.
know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the thing is when they released the soundtrack for that movie, it was like none of those songs, which I don't care anyway because I've already got those.
Right.
But it was like, yeah,
Yeah, no,
don't
this
care.
is a really good time for superhero soundtracks. In addition to all these movies, I get a lot of them just because they're good to read your comics to.
They're good.
You
Even
know.
like if you're like cleaning your collection,
Right.
You know, listen to Hans Zimmer's music score to like
Yeah.
Batman vs Superman. I feel like blowing stuff up on
Yeah.
cleaning my statues.
That's
Yeah.
maybe not what you want to do while you're
Yeah,
cleaning those.
that's
How
what I'm
expensive
talking
did you
about.
say those were?
But yeah, like even like back when Batman Begins came out, I got that soundtrack and I just listened to that over and over reading Batman, and it's like when I watch it now, the soundtrack really stands out for me. You know, so there's that. But it's like there's so many of these soundtracks coming out now, but it's just like it's such a letdown when you get releases like that. And the James Bond movies are like that now too. I've got all the Bond soundtracks. Skyfall and Spectre both didn't have the theme
Oh,
on the
really?
CD. Yeah, I
What
ended
in the
up
world?
buying Spectre digital because of that, and then I just got the Sam Smith single separate.
Right.
And I'm sure it's an issue of they can't pay them enough, you know, of Adele and Sam Smith now to release their songs on their soundtrack, and they release it as a single.
Huh.
But it's like that's just frustrating.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that was the one cool thing about like even Guardians of the Galaxy is for so long, you know, you'd always seen like, you know, for example, Iron Man 2, like AC/DC, they specifically released a soundtrack for Iron Man 2 that's all AC/DC catalog. And, you know, it was cool to see some of the new songs that they had on there at the time, but, you know, you still had like Dirty Deeds, TNT, Shoot to Thrill.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, we've heard those, but like with Guardians, both them soundtracks, I mean, they had some big hits on there, but like having stuff from like Sweet,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
Lesser
Fleetwood
known
Mac,
stuff.
it's like,
Yeah.
it was really cool.
Yeah,
You know,
it is.
Music Nut, it's, you know, definitely check them out.
Yeah, and of course the first Guardians just tied into their soundtrack. They
Oh,
just
yeah.
made such a great use of that in general.
Sure.
And the problem is all the rest of the movies are trying to emulate Guardians'
Oh, yeah,
success
trying to
with
capture
the
it.
jokes and
Lightning
with
in
the
bottle.
with the
Yeah.
music,
Oh, yeah.
and most of them were falling short. Even the second
Yeah.
Guardians, while it was good, was not.
It was a little forced.
It was,
It tried too hard.
you
Oh,
know, didn't flow as well as the first Guardians. So now we have everything trying to be Guardians. I think you got some directors too telling all their actors, pretend you were Robert Downey Jr. playing Thor, and playing that way. And it's like, oh no.
Right.
Jeff Goldblum. What everybody think of Jeff Goldblum?
He was Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
Jeff Goldblum.
yeah.
I
didn't-
really don't see the point of not painting him blue.
Yeah.
He's still
Why?
going to be recognizable.
Well, yeah.
He's still got
Just
a
'cause
face
he's
that'll
blue, you
stand
can't
out.
tell who it is.
Yeah, they even could have done it digitally if he didn't want to put on the makeup.
Right. Yeah, I didn't care. I didn't care for Jeff Goldblum in that role.
I mean,
so
the other part of that is I don't really care about the Grandmaster.
Yeah.
Right.
He's never been a great character, so it's one of those things where you have a not necessarily a blank slate, but one that no one's beholden to. Really, you're not going to get fans outraged about that's not my
that's-
Grandmaster.
yeah,
That's not going to happen. You know, so it's nice that Marvel kind of takes advantage of that when they can, and kind of at least build something on it, even if it is just, hey, here's Jeff Goldblum.
Well, it always seems like that kind of plays into that whole thing, too, is like, are these actors and actresses just like, I want to be in a Marvel
yeah.
movie.
Right.
Can you find me just the small? It's like John C. Reilly in the first Guardians.
Right.
It's like, what are you doing in Guardians?
Yeah.
Obviously, you know? So,
What about the because we had like there was 2 post-credit scenes in Thor. We had the one with the ship
Oh,
Right.
that's
yeah.
popping up. So anybody wants to spec who's ever I think the ship is?
I mean, it's Thanos,
Yeah,
right?
Thanos.
Well,
Yeah.
we don't know. I mean, right for sure.
I don't think anybody knows for sure, but I'm like, who else is that going to be?
The
It's
thought
at least
crossed my mind is the Beta Ray Bill's ship, which would be awesome.
That would. I mean, I'd love to. I mean, we had.
You're probably right. It's
We had
Thanos,
a
but-
reference.
We had a Beta Ray Bill Easter egg in this movie.
Mhm, in the
so
tower,
that's
yeah.
definitely
Tower
there.
of Champions,
Yeah.
Okay, well, talking about the tower, I was able to figure out a couple. Does anybody know all of them?
I don't remember. I had several on my notes that I couldn't find before I got here.
Because I know we got Beta Ray Bill, and I think we have the Bi Beast.
Right, with the double I. Those are the two that I remember.
I think
and
one
then
of them
Hulk was at the top.
I think one of them might have been Ares.
I don't remember the picture
looked
now.
like that to me.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And I'm not sure who the other one was.
Yeah.
I think I was thinking Airwalker at the time, but I'm not sure if that's right.
I need to look at that. I need to look at that again.
Freeze
Yeah.
frame.
Yeah.
Of course, then we have the one other gladiator who was the Saturn guys from the first Journey to Mystery '83.
Right.
So that was kind of cool that he was in there.
Yeah, and then
Though the character himself was a little annoying.
right.
So.
But that was Taika Waititi, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The director.
Mhm, cool.
It
Yeah,
was
thank you. I
Korg
couldn't come with the
only
name.
a name only. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely have a lot of Planet Hulk in this Thor movie.
Right.
Yeah. Now, as far as I'm concerned, in the Marvel characters, Hulk is the strongest of all of the Marvel characters. But in this movie, it's very clear that Thor is stronger than the Hulk. Because Thor wins that fight without intervention. That kind of bothered me as well. So when it comes to just brute force, Hulk should beat Thor, but Thor wins this one.
Do you think that, the way they're kind of doing Hulk throughout the Marvel movies, isn't he becoming more Banner-like as we go along? Now he's carrying on full conversations. Could it be more like as Banner's taking over more, Hulk's less? You know what I mean?
Well, they kind of implied that it's going to be, Banner saying if he changes again, he may never change back.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I don't know if it's that or if it's just he's been Hulk. So story-wise, he's been Hulk for 2 years now.
Right.
Without changing back.
without changing back, yeah.
So is this just Hulk developing more
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
getting smarter and being more in control now?
Gotcha.
Okay, back to bad jokes in this movie towards the end. Okay, spoiler, they do the throw Hulk out of the aircraft
Yes.
or throw Banner out of the aircraft
To
so
get
that
him
he
changed.
changes due to the stress of almost dying.
Mhm.
Bruce Banner collapses
Collapses.
onto the Rainbow Bridge.
Right.
And it was
They-
good for a laugh, but
It's good for a laugh, but does this imply that Banner's dead? They've meant this has come up in the comic books before,
Huh.
where if he changes at the point of death, I think this is in Hulk the End. He can't change back to Banner because Banner's dead, or he will Hulk will die when he reverts back to Banner at that point.
I would say in the movies, no, because in the Avengers movie, right, didn't Banner say he shot himself and he
The other guy
changed?
spit out the
Other
bullet.
guy spit out the bullet. So wasn't that in the first Avengers movie?
That was were we taking that as literal or as metaphor?
I was taking it as literal.
I did too.
So,
Okay.
but who knows? We don't know.
But yeah, they've done stuff like that in comics before
Mm-hmm.
too, where even if it's a bullet right next to him, as soon as he'll change that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, depending on the situation. But yeah,
and the throwing the red ball against the glass, that was another cheap laugh.
Yeah.
It's just like it's constant cheap laughs, and even Kate Blanchett, they don't remember me. It's like, oh, come on. And she's a character I like. I wanted to like her role a lot because I like her as an actress, but
Didn't work.
it just didn't work. Yeah,
I really like the look of the outfit on her.
Yeah.
I like the
Oh, good.
horns.
Really?
It is more. It's definitely based on the kind of Walt Simonson Kirby design, but
Yeah.
I think specifically
That's not a bad thing.
It looks more like the Jay Lee with this kind of pointed horns on it and everything. I also am really glad, and I'm not sure why this is the first movie to do it. We got a lot of Kirby in the production design of this movie.
yeah.
You've got the Alien Sakaar world where there's Kirby tech all over the place. From
Right.
the first scene where Thor's on that chair.
Yep.
We just got influences of Kirby all over the place.
The Willy Wonka theme music.
Yeah.
They get any Kirby Crackle looking.
Not so much Crackle, but definitely his tech kind of
Yeah.
styles all over the place. And some of the bright colors and things like that.
So do we think that Valkyrie's going to be the love interest moving forward, since apparently Natalie Portman is out of all the rest of the Thor movies? So I figured that I felt to me like they were forcing that, and I felt like they should have left that for Sif. But what do I know?
Yeah, I don't care either way.
Yeah.
It's, again, didn't really care about any of the characters.
characters,
Well,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Here's
the characters
the
I cared about weren't there.
Right.
Yeah, there was a rumor I heard about another love interest that I thought would maybe be an end credit scene or something, saying that Hela is the death that Thanos is in love with in the movie universe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, well, maybe that'll be like an end credit scene, or they'll tie that in somehow to Infinity War.
Right.
But again, in a movie,
They
we all understand the concept of the Grim Reaper in comics, and that has traditionally been, represented with Thanos. Does that play to a movie? But it's much more understandable for an audience maybe that Thanos is in love with Cate Blanchett.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Of course, she's not. Did they ever actually call her the goddess of death in the movie?
Yeah, she refers to herself as that.
She was more often just Odin's right hand.
First, yeah.
Odin's first and stuff like that.
They several times they mentioned
Okay.
that, because she even says like, "What were you the god of?" or something like that. She's the goddess of death.
Yeah. Okay.
Personally, I just kind of wish they'd ease up on any love interests in these superhero movies and stuff. Cause, I mean, it's good to a certain degree, but it seems like anymore that's a go-to, and it can either make or break it.
Well, it's watering them down quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they got to, I mean, I guess it would be sexist to this day and age, but they kind of got to appeal to the, these are guy movies. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean.
Give something.
So give something.
They gotta,
a little bit of romance.
They got to get a reason for the girlfriend to get dragged along.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I like superhero stuff, but it's kind of like The Notebook too. So.
Yeah.
She's like, well, okay.
Well, we want to grade it.
Oh, sure.
wanna grade
Well, real quick, just sort of
Okay.
a tangent thing I want to ask you real quick.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we talked about Natalie Portman, probably being out of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
What if they do what we've got now in Thor, bring Jane Foster back as the wielder of Mjolnir?
While I like the idea, Natalie Portman has to have a really good director to be a very good actress. So that's why she's terrible in some films, like some of the Star Wars movies, and why she was better in the first Thor movie, because you had a real director for that movie, and she was really good in The Professional because you had a good director. If they get a good director and bring her back in that way, then I'm okay with it. But if they don't have a really strong director, I'd rather them recast. That's just my take on it, or just have a completely different person as the new Thor, because we're probably going to get a new Thor after Avengers.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
You guys think we're getting close to a reboot for the Marvel Universe? Because we're closing in on 15 years now, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
For the Marvel Cinematic, they've got a plan for how many more years?
I've heard up through 2020, but again, I don't get the emails.
So yeah, I don't either. So so we could be 4 years away from a complete reboot.
Right.
So the entire Marvel Cinematic.
The thing is, though, too, they've stated after the fourth Avengers, contracts are going to be expiring.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to afford to bring everyone back, regardless of who they want to. And Chris Hemsworth is is notorious for being the least paid Avenger.
Yeah.
Is the one who has to stay buff all the time.
Well, I don't know. Chris Evans has to stay in pretty good shape too.
Yeah.
So. All right. Anything else on Thor?
I think I'm good.
All right. Who wants to grade it first? I'll go first.
Okay.
I give it a fine plus. So I got a 6.5. Fine plus is my grade for Thor.
I will say very fine for this. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was definitely better than Dark World. Overall, just as a complete movie experience, I think it was really good. There are flaws to it, of course, but there is on everything else.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm gonna have to agree with Scott on that. I'd give it a fine plus. It was a lot of fun, but I don't know, just in the end for me, a little bit lacking. You know what I mean? Fun and entertaining while you're watching it, but once it's over, it's just like, yeah, what else you got? That's kind of how I felt.
Well, Infinity War.
Yeah,
that's what they've got.
Oh no, Black Panther.
We've got Black Panther
Black Panther
before.
Black Panther.
Right.
So, all right, Justice League. We'll let Tyler talk because he hasn't got to talk here. Give us your initial impression of Justice League.
Well, honestly, before going to see it, when it got announced at San Diego, 2 years ago now, a year ago, I was excited for it. And I don't know, just the constant, hate towards the DC films and stuff, it kind of bummed me out. And I was like, man, I hope they can pull it together. And honestly, getting closer to the release date, we was actually coming back from your con, and we stopped at Pizza, and we were sitting there talking about movies and stuff. And we were like, what else is coming out this year? And, you know, we went from Thor straight to Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And Justice League didn't even come across. And Josh, who ain't even the DC guy,
Right,
he's
yeah,
the Marvel
man.
guy, he was like, what about Justice League? And I was like, I completely forgot.
Yeah,
And
I felt bad about
I
that.
did too. And I was like, it shouldn't feel that way, especially
No.
if you've been waiting as long as a lot of us have for it. But overall, going into it, and I watched it, despite the fact that I got spoiled like a night or two before.
I know, yeah. You were not happy that
I was
day.
not happy, but it was whatever. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I realize it has flaws, but I left the movie, and like I told the guys after we got done, I was like, I don't really have anything to complain about. I mean, nothing comes to mind. It was fun. I mean, getting to see those guys on the screen together for the first time live action, it was really cool. I mean, it was like, that's the Justice League.
Right. I liked it. I mean, I was surprised by how much I liked it, to be honest. I mean, for the first 30 minutes of the movie, I got to admit, I was pretty much checked out. I don't know. There was just something about the way the setup was done. Kind of felt, you know, Suicide Squad-y to me. Oh, here's what Aquaman's doing. Here's what so-and-so's doing. Here's what so-and... It just kind of felt disjointed, you know. But as they moved along, the kind of whole thing, it kind of gelled together, you know. I mean, I think I like Batman-led Justice League, and I like Wonder Woman-led Justice League. I'm not a fan of Superman Justice League necessarily, you know, as far as Justice League stories. And so I like the fact that it started out Batman put the league together, but by the end of the film, Wonder Woman was the heart of that team. I thought so. Both of those things really worked for me. As far as the casting, I was glad to see. I mean, I felt like they redeemed Superman in the DC movies. You know, made him the optimist that we've always needed to see. You know, I think they helped that. There's quite a bit of course corrections or a lot of that stuff, and you know, overall, I had a lot of fun. You know, I got to admit there was definite issues with it, but by the end of it, they pretty much won me over.
Well, I enjoyed it, but there was a lot of things that I would have liked to have seen them do a better job with. Superman and Wonder Woman were terrific in the movie. Batman was okay. Aquaman and Flash were pretty bad. I thought I did not care for especially Flash. Flash was just wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not even mentioning Cyborg. But the change in director for that movie, it felt pretty obvious in a lot of scenes. We'll talk about that later. But it wasn't terrible. But I was hoping for better because I, unlike a lot of other people, liked Man of Steel and Batman v Superman.
I did too.
I can watch those movies over and over again, and like some of the Marvel movies, which initially, like the first time through, I liked quite a bit. They lose it a little bit as you watch them repeatedly, and they're just not quite as enjoyable the second and third time. But this Justice League, they're trying too hard to emulate now the Marvel universe, and I think they're losing what set them apart from the Marvel movies for the DC stuff. So.
I really like the movie. For the most part, with the DC movies, I'll say it's pretty good when they need to be great.
Yeah,
there's a lot of hating on these movies at this point. I don't think we're going to get away from it, unfortunately. But again, I'm a DC fan my entire life. I wanted a Justice League movie for a long time. This may not be the movie I was expecting or wanting to get, but I still liked it. And, you know, there are flaws with it, but I thought it was a really good movie. I've seen it twice now in the theater. I liked it more the second time. I also saw Thor twice. Yeah. As it works out.
Yeah,
but
I've only seen each of them once, but I would go see Justice League again before I'd go see Thor again. Yeah.
I found, so, you know, we had the whole thing of Joss Whedon coming on and finishing the movie. So the first time I watched it, I'm really looking for which scene was probably Whedon, which one was Snyder. A list did leak online of who did what scene. I was right, except for one scene. You know, you can kind of tell who did what.
Right.
It doesn't flow as well as it should.
No.
What I would have, you know, hypothetically, if there had been some way to get both these guys working together from the start, I think we'd have a better experience.
I like Zack Snyder movies, and I guess I'm in the big minority on this one because I love Watchmen.
I did too.
I love Man of Steel. I love Batman v Superman, and didn't care for this one as much because I didn't like he was as strong.
I think he does action phenomenally.
Yeah,
I think he's a great action director. You've got to have more than that now, though.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got a lot of story you had to cover, and there's other factors. We have a CEO coming in saying your runtime has to be 2 hours.
Yeah.
When you have a complicated story to set up, that's not the way to go. And again, that's not on the directors at that point.
And that's, I mean, when I watch, when I say I like Batman v Superman, I watch the director's cut, so it's significantly longer than the theatrical release. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So DC, you just need to stop cutting the movie short. Let the story be told.
That's kind of the big thing now. Will there be? So much stuff was cut from this movie. Will there be an extended cut? I doubt we see a Snyder cut because I don't even know. I'm not sure if you can at this point. You know, I don't think anybody's 100% on that. But
the thing is, if they even do that, it seems like there was so many reshoots and redos on things. Like, if they did that, would it be a complete mess?
Yeah,
yeah.
There are some scenes where there is just a single character in the scene, even though it's in the middle of a fight scene, and you can feel like for sure, oh well, Whedon added that.
Yeah, that's
okay. So like, here's the one. I haven't seen that list. So like the one scene that stood out the most to me is like in the theater I said that was Whedon, was at the end of the Superman versus the rest of the league fight. Batman's laying on the ground talking about how much that hurt, and he's the only character in that scene. That had to be Whedon.
Yeah,
was that
okay?
All right.
Because it was kind of a rip on that "Do You Bleed" anyway.
Yeah, the "Do You Bleed" was Whedon too, apparently.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Do You Bleed?
For what you're talking about, the one that really stood out for me, and I knew it when I saw it in the trailer, is in the big fight at the end where you just see Wonder Woman real quick. It's a shot of Wonder Woman. She's the only one on screen, and she just kind of smiles real quick, and then it cuts back. That scene is not there for any real reason. It's totally a pickup that was inserted into this movie. But, you know, it's a nice shot, too. Like, it'd be a great poster, I guess.
Right.
Well, the joking banter back and forth, I feel like most of that was Whedon adding that in.
Right.
The one, what I thought was was Whedon that was Snyder was at the prison when Barry draws on the guy's face. That was Snyder, apparently.
Oh.
Where he takes the magic marker and draws on the guy's glasses and mustache.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently that was Snyder.
Yeah, but I have to say it wasn't as jarring as I thought it would be with two such totally different directors.
And it flowed way better when I saw it the second time, and I'm not looking for it. I'm just going along for the ride. It worked a lot better.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't like was in Batman v Superman, they established at the end of that movie that Superman was basically alive.
Oh, for sure.
And then they come into this movie, and he's dead again, and they had to come up with this whole resurrection thing. They could have saved a lot of time by just going off of what was already established. I feel like they made a mistake there.
Back
as
to that
well.
that scene in Man of Steel you're referring to real quick. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine hadn't seen, waited a long time to see the movie in theater. Like, it had been out for several weeks before he could go see it. So he was avoiding spoilers. He saw a headline about the dirt in Man of Steel and was like, oh, that can't be anything, and clicked on it and saw the spoiler of Superman dying in that.
One thing that I wish they, obviously they put money, obviously too much, into Justice League for what it made back. Mm-hmm. But where they could have used more money is the CGI on Cavill's mustache.
That's got to be one of the craziest stories of this movie.
And do such a close-up, knowing that you're going to have to do that much CGI.
Yeah.
Keep him at a distance.
Here's the thing. Has anyone seen a picture of him in the suit with the stash?
No.
Yes, I saw one picture of that. Yeah, I can't remember where it was. Yes, yeah.
Because I was looking around, I couldn't find anything online. I figured for sure they must have had that locked down.
And I saw that weeks and weeks before the movie came out.
You?
So yeah,
because I was like, "There's no way someone doesn't have a picture of him in the suit with the mustache." I'm sure they don't want it out there.
Talk about a poster.
Well, I guess it's possible that maybe the picture I saw was a Photoshop because I didn't pay that much attention to it. So I could have saw somebody just Photoshop.
There were a lot of people photoshopping kind of jokey images of it and stuff like that. But
I thought I saw.
I thought for sure someone's jumping over a fence.
Yeah.
Trying to get that shot.
Close set for sure.
The whole origin of the mother boxes and the Lord of the Rings feel to that particular scene where the three mother boxes to rule them all.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why we necessarily need the three mother boxes.
Yeah.
Did anybody else think that Cyborg was going to turn out to be the third mother box?
I thought they showed all three pretty early, so that didn't cross my mind. Mm-hmm. So,
because I kept thinking the third one was going to be in him, that that his father had repaired him with or something. I assume he just integrated with it.
Right. Ever since the New 52, they have so dramatically changed Cyborg's character. Yeah. They have significantly upped his power level. They're desperate to get him as a founding Justice League member, and just stick with Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. And
I mean,
not
don't you
force
feel like
somebody in.
these? I mean, that was written by Johns. Don't you feel like that was done for this movie?
Well, him being up was back in New 50 or New 52.
I mean, even back then they were talking about the DC movies and stuff
well,
like
maybe.
that. You know,
I don't know.
I feel like it's just a long term plan, like how Marvel revamped the Guardians of the Galaxy so they can make a movie in a few years.
Yeah, maybe.
You
So
know, that was the impression I got at the time, anyway, reading them.
a lot more of the scenes, just like regular scenes where the characters are sitting around talking. I feel like 90% of that movie was filmed in front of a green screen. So like almost all the backgrounds were CGI.
You love Zack Snyder movies.
Well,
that's what he does.
But it was more obvious in this movie than what it was in most of the other ones to me.
Well, the thing is though too. Well, I think specifically with Snyder because typically his movies are so stylistic with like 300 and Sucker Punch. It will look artificial, and that's kind of the look of it, you know, because it is more stylized. This is supposed to be a more real world. Well,
when you're showing the real world and doing CGI, just show the real world.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I don't know. But overall, it was all right. Like I like Thor a little bit better. So like I gave this one a fine rating for how I felt about it. But I don't know. What'd you guys do?
Well, I had very fine, like 8, because. You know, going into it, like I said, I had the mindset of if this was the only Justice League movie we're gonna get for who knows how long or whatever, I was like, I'm gonna go in and if I like it, I like it, you know. But I liked it. It turned out to be not a whole lot what I wanted. Like, it was cool to see Steppenwolf. It'd have been cooler to see Darkseid, and I don't even know what they're really going to do with that, because now at the end, spoilers, you know, the last end credit scene, you know, they tease either the Injustice League or Legion of Doom or something like that. But overall, I liked it. I had not a lot of problems with it.
We didn't even talk about the Flash Superman race. That was definitely so for the fans, you know, that was the big, you know, but Barry Allen looks like an idiot in that scene because he doesn't know which way to go. So
now there is not that scene, but I guess it's in the movie where they're clearing out the people. There's a shot of Flash running with Superman next to him on screen, and it's like I got the same feeling from that as I got in Avengers when you had Captain America and Iron Man on the screen at the same time.
Right.
You know, so for some reason it's like those kind of duos that hit me harder than, and it's usually before you have the whole team together and everything. But just these classic, you know, kind of pairings we see in the comics over the decades now. And when you see that live action for the first time, it's usually pretty special.
Yeah, you're talking about the scene in Avengers where the scene that really got me is in Avengers whenever Cap's standing there and Iron Man bounces his repulsors off of Cap's shield so they can take out a group of guys around him, you know. So that was like a cool scene for those two characters together. So
and when they're all like out in the woods and that back in Avengers, I so wish that Captain America would have picked up Thor's hammer and handed it to him.
That would have been
and just played it off like it's no big deal.
No big deal. I am 100%, 150% with you on that. I have 2 complaints about Avengers. That's number 1. Okay, and number 2. Actually, I got 3 complaints. Number 2, number 2. There should have been a mention of Henry Pym and Janet Van Dyne, even if it was just on a screen someplace as founding Avengers. And number 3, Cap and Peggy Carter, should have got their dance. But anyway, that's a different movie. So I'll stop.
Right. God, my rating on it, I'd probably have to do a fine plus on this one too. You know, about the same. You know, maybe a little bit more, but I'm not going to go, you know, very fine slide. You know, like that. You know, maybe fine plus, very fine minus. I'll give it that. Give it the slight edge over Thor for me. Yeah,
I'll say fine. I feel like just as an experience, I feel like Thor was better. I'm in the bag for DC. I'm going to buy the extended Blu-ray Steelbook when it comes out.
Oh, me too.
You know, I'm going to see these movies. You know, I liked it. Again, there were flaws, but we know a lot of the backstory on this particular production.
I mean, when I watched it, you know, it felt like You know, there was scenes like the Batman scene where you see him in Gotham hunting the parademon and stuff, when he's like hanging on the water tower and stuff. I'm like, that's Batman.
Right.
You know, and then Wonder Woman on Lady Justice and stuff. So, and then you get them fighting Steppenwolf. Like, it felt like a typical kind of beat 'em up superhero movie. It was fun. As far as the story goes, you're not gonna get some crazy in depth like mystery or something like
2
that.
hours.
Yeah, it's just,
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'd totally be down for a 3-hour Justice League movie
Oh, yeah.
if it's done well.
And I think it would have been better. I think this
Yeah.
movie would have been a lot better if they could have done the 3 hour or even another half an hour. I think would have really helped. That's why I'm also looking forward to the extended version of this movie. I have one more scene. Sorry, I did really enjoy in the fight scene where they're all teaming up on Superman, and Flash thinks he's gonna be sneaking up on him, and it just goes slow mo, and Superman is just watching him the whole time.
Oh, that's so creepy.
That was such a cool
Yeah,
scene.
that was
so
really nice.
now, and I had to have been a Zack Snyder scene.
Oh, surely. I have to double check that list. But
Let me
surely
know, but it had to be. So okay, I'm done with Justice League. So.
Okay.
All right.
Just real quick, something I want to bring up. We kind of talked about Guardians of the Galaxy kind of influencing other movies. I feel like the ending of Doctor Strange is starting to influence other films. I think where it's not just necessarily a big beat 'em up with Dormammu at the end, where he actually tricks him. He forces him into a situation where he has to relent. I feel like, to an extent, Thor.
Yeah.
It's kind of influenced by that. I feel Justice League kind of was too.
Yes.
Where we're not just punching the bad guy into the ground. We have his guys turn on him at the end of Justice League. We have Thor bring about Ragnarok to stop the villain. I feel like these movies are starting to get more creative with their endings of how they deal with the big bats. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Because that's the criticism you hear of these superhero movies just in general, is that they're all the same, and you have a big video game boss fight at the end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
Which was the one failing of Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Great movie. Oh, bad third act.
Yeah.
Boss fight.
it was like, and I was cool with that, but I just wish they'd have done something with the mustache.
Yeah.
What is with DC and their mustaches? Come
on,
on,
man.
Mustache.
Mustache right.
Well, I said I was done with Justice League, but thanks for in the credits, Jack Kirby created Fourth World.
Word up.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Okay. All right, I guess the last thing is Punisher, and 3 out of 4 of us haven't seen all of it, the Punisher Netflix thing.
We don't have to do a lot of spoilers on this one, so I can be careful. I don't have a whole lot to say about it anyway. So,
Gotcha.
but
I mean, what I've seen, I think I'm through episode 5, and the first episode blew me away. I thought that first episode was amazing. And again, which is typical of Netflix series to me, it kind of gets bogged down in some of those middle episodes. So the first one was great. Second one was really good. Third and fourth, it's kind of, those two kind of made it hard for me to go on. You know what I mean? It's just like, I was just kind of bogged down in that. So,
well, for me, after the second season of Daredevil, this is the best of the Netflix shows. At the second season of Daredevil, and then Punisher / first season of Daredevil are number 2 on that list for the Netflix Marvel stuff.
Yeah, I think I still haven't seen the last 3, and I've heard the last 2 really pick up and are pretty big ending to it. But I really like what I've watched. Again, the first episode
We'll forgive you.
really kind of grabs you. I do like that they're dealing with kind of the soldiers and the kind of PTSD theme, and obviously that's carrying over with Frank too in the story. I feel like the military stuff is kind of repetitive from Daredevil. I really want to see Punisher just tearing through sort of street level criminals. Hopefully they do get to that in the next season. But it's been really good so far. Just on a personal note, I had a bad timing issue with my blog with that Punisher trailer that came out. With Metallica's One is sort of synced up to the gunshots in that, because I posted that on the day of the Vegas shooting. And again, that was not intentional. That's just how timing works against you sometimes.
Right. I would like to no more than that I've seen. I'd like to comment on Bernthal's portrayal.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. The way he does that it's so brilliant, because there is nothing subtle about anything he does. The way he eats is not subtle. The way
Right.
he, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
He is very physical and everything, but very brutish too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, and I just love that all in. Everything he does is just all in. I
There
just
are
absolutely
there are
love
very
it.
few times you can say that a casting was perfect, and this is one of those times where I think he was the perfect person to cast for that character.
Right.
So my only real nitpick about it is I kind of feel like they forgot some of the origin that they'd established for him in the Daredevil second season. So as far as I'm trying to think of some specifics, but how he's interacting with other people, it just feels different in this movie. I mean, if you're going to tell a character-based interaction show, a story, you've got to add that back into the character.
Right.
But he was a whole lot more solo. I felt like he was a little in establishing the relationship with Microchip. I think it's pretty obvious that he was going to be on his side, but he took him way too long to figure out that if he didn't want to work with him, that he would have done something differently. So, but that kind of went on for, I think this is where you're talking about, where it kind of got bogged down.
Yeah.
After they finally get through that really helps it pick up the pace
Gotcha.
from there. So,
Do they ever actually call him microchip? Because I keep hearing micro all the time. and
yeah,
I've been listening for it, and I
I'm
can't
trying to
remember.
think about that as I said that, and we know for sure it's micro most of the time,
Right.
but that's just from the comics, so I just had to keep it that way.
Right.
I don't know what it is about the Punisher. Every other character in the Marvel Netflix, they can take a dozen punches to the face and ribs, and the next episode they are completely healed. And Punisher has black eyes for the entire the entire show, except when he goes and sees a girl.
Do you think he's using makeup?
I don't know. Maybe that's just how he looks. I don't know. But,
Yeah, again, I don't know how the series ends yet, but I feel like, especially with the way they introduced him in this, they need a reason for him beyond his family to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Because you
Once
have
he's taken all them out, what's his motivation?
What's the
yeah,
motivation?
that's the thing.
Yeah.
And Punisher needs motivation, even if it's just I got to get them all.
Yeah.
Even if he's just the Pokemon of crime fighters, he's got to take all these guys out. So,
All right. Anything else?
no, like I said, I don't want to really
Okay.
spoil it for anything. But
I can't really rate it, of course, but I mean,
well, I'm definitely going. Probably I'm gonna have to go near mint.
wow.
Near mint or probably near mint minus, just because I can nitpick it. So I'm gonna go near mint minus on the Punisher. Second best of the Netflix shows. One of the few that I'm actually planning on watching again all the way through.
again, I haven't seen it all yet, but for what I've seen, I'd probably go near mint on that too. It's been a really good time, and I think we just got sort of a teaser trailer for season 2, so that'll be coming sometime. I would assume next year.
All right. Well, I guess that'll do it for this special review episode of the Campus Comics Cast. Let us know what you think. Contact us. Just message me on Facebook again. Like we said, give us a like at the page. Stop in and see us at 816 East Main Street. Phone number 618-457-6011. Got it right the first time that time. And again, this is Mike at Campus Comics. And
Scott Reed, find me at www.birdcomics.com. BURG has links to my eBay store, Facebook page, Instagram feed. You can get it directly from the website.
Dan Brown, you can find me on Twitter, WordPress, and my DeviantArt page at Detective651.
And I'm Tyler Wright. You can find me on Facebook or maybe here at the store at some
yeah.
point.
There you go. All right.